Lydia Ko won the gold medal for women's golf at the 2024 Paris Olympics. As a result, she completed the requirements for induction into the LPGA Hall of Fame. And that achievement was even more special just because it was the LPGA's super exclusive Hall of Fame located in Augusta, Georgia. It's anyone's guess why the LPGA Hall of Fame is the closest thing to golf's Illuminati. But if you asked me, I'd probably say it's because only 5 players have qualified for induction into this hallowed hall in the last 20 years. So Ko didn't just join women's golf royalty, she more like made it to the Mount Olympus of women's golf, which is a pretty sick achievement. But should the LPGA Hall of Fame only accept generational magicians like Ko? In this video, I'll show you why it's so hard to make it into the LPGA Hall of Fame, and I'll look at how the Hall of Fame can reduce the obstacles to entry to celebrate more players who have given so much of themselves to women's golf and golf in general. Most fans of the LPGA Tour know about the draconian criteria for induction into the LPGA Hall of Fame. However, it only surfaces as a talking point after someone finally qualifies, which, going by the frequency of occurrence, is a seismic event in women's golf. So why is it so earth-shattering when a woman makes it into the LPGA Hall of Fame? Well, there are 27 reasons for that. You see, the LPGA Hall of Fame uses a points-based system instead of the votes-based system employed by most Hall of Fames. This means a player has to accumulate a total of 27 points over the length of her career on the LPGA Tour. Players get 1 point for every non-major tournament they win, 2 points for a major tournament victory, 1 point for winning the Vare Trophy, which is the award for the season's lowest scoring average, 1 point for winning the Rolex Player of the Year, and a point for winning the highly coveted Olympic gold medal. One would think winning 27 LPGA events would be enough for qualification. But it's not. You must have won at least one of these 3 awards to be allowed into the LPGA Hall of Fame. That is, a major tournament, a Vare Trophy, or a Player of the Year award. We'll get into just how near impossible it is to hit that lucky number 27 in today's game in a minute. But what hope do you have if you don't rack up the required points before you call it quits? Well, the Hall of Fame has inducted some honorary members in the course of its existence. This includes entertainer and tournament host Dinah Shore in 1994 and 8 of the LPGA's 13 co-founders in 2022. So, if you can't accumulate enough points as a player, another way to get in is by hosting an LPGA tournament. Or better still, you can go back in time to be the 14th co-founder and get your name into this illustrious hall. I think looking at this criteria in isolation might not do justice to how harsh it is on women golfers. So let's compare it to the World Golf Hall of Fame as an example of easier qualification conditions. The requirements for the World Golf Hall of Fame have evolved since its establishment in 1974. Through the years, it has taken into account the evolution of the sport and the need to recognize non-players who have contributed to the sport immensely. This is why it now recognizes both players and non-players yearly. As a player, either male or female, all you need to be considered for the World Golf Hall of Fame are at least 15 wins on an approved tour or 2 major wins. Also, you have to be 45 years old or older, so as far from your prime as you can be. The World Golf Hall of Fame is a total departure from the LPGA Tour structure. For one, it's a votes-based system, so even after qualifying via competitive achievements, you still need the approval of the Hall of Fame's committees of nominators and voters to be allowed in. However, compared to the LPGA Hall of Fame, most high-achieving women golfers are assured of a spot in the World Golf Hall of Fame. They just have to wait their turn to get in. This has created a weird phenomenon where you have great women golfers in the World Golf Hall of Fame who are not in the LPGA Hall of Fame. And if the conditions stand as they are, they might never make it in. For example, besides being the GOAT of modern British women's golf, Laura Davies was one of the LPGA's shiniest stars in the 1990s. However, her 20 LPGA Tour titles, including 4 majors, and her 1996 Player of the Year award, only got her 25 points. So she's had to watch the LPGA Hall of Fame from afar, even though she was inducted into the World Golf Hall of Fame in 2015. Beverly Hansen, Susie Burning, Jan Stevenson, Sandra Palmer, Hollis Stacy, and Meg Mallon are the other names who might never see the inside of the LPGA Golf Hall of Fame. But like Davies, their names have been engraved in golf history, courtesy of the World Golf Hall of Fame. The most controversial name locked out of the LPGA Hall of Fame might just be Jane Blalock. She's not a stranger to anyone who followed women's golf in the 70s and 80s. As a prolific player, she won 27 times on the LPGA Tour. So naturally, she has the 27 points required for induction. Technically speaking, she doesn't. She never won a Vare Trophy, a Player of the Year award, or a major title. Or did she win a major? In 1972, she won the very first Dinah Shore Colgate Winner's Circle, which you might know as the major tournament called the Chevron Championship today. But it was only elevated to major tournament status in 1983. So her championship doesn't count as a major, and as a result, she might never get into the LPGA Hall of Fame. The strict qualification system has meant that so many great players might never get the recognition they deserve. But even though today the LPGA Hall of Fame is as guarded as Fort Knox or wherever Santa stores his gifts, I'll have you know that it used to be a lot harder. In fact, among the 21st century class, only Annika Sorenstam and Karrie Webb would have made it in, using the Hall's old requirements. Betsy King was the LPGA's Player of the Year for 1987. By then, she'd been on the tour for 10 years and had only won 7 times. So knowing how little time she had on her side, she doubted her chance of ever making it into the LPGA Hall of Fame. Speaking to the Los Angeles Times in 1988, she explained why it would be difficult for her and most of her contemporaries to make it into the LPGA Hall of Fame. She made the case that the rule was outdated due to the change in the quality of talent on the tour, saying when they laid the ground rules for qualifying for the Hall of Fame, there were about 50 players on tour. Winning 8 or 9 tournaments a year was pretty common then, rather than the exception. Today we have 144 really good players out there, so it's a lot harder to win a lot of tournaments. Our Hall of Fame is the hardest to attain of any sport. And there wasn't a single lie or exaggeration in her statement. For example, among the LPGA's top 10 winningest women, only Annika Sorenstam and Karrie Webb recorded victories in the 21st century. And the fact that Ko's 21 wins is the closest anyone in this generation is to Sorenstam's 72 wins or Webb's 41 victories shows those two were obvious outliers. And I'll go so far as to say Sorenstam and Webb would struggle to attain those numbers in today's game. Let me know if you agree with that in the comments. The rule King was talking about wasn't the 27-point requirement in place today. To get into the LPGA Hall of Fame in 1988, you needed at least 30 wins, which must include 2 different majors. But if you could only get your hands on one major, then you'd have to win 35 times. And if you never won a major, that just meant you needed a massive haul of 40 victories to qualify for the LPGA Hall of Fame. It was absolutely bonkers. In that same LA Times interview, King later said the qualifying procedure wasn't fair to the likes of Judy Rankin, Donna Caponi, Jane Blalock, Marlene Hagee, Sandra Palmer, and other terrific players who could miss out on the Hall of Fame if the rules remained unchanged. King, to her credit, would later make it into the Hall of Fame by the old criteria, which was a testament to her prowess. However, over the years, the quality of LPGA fields has increased exponentially, so the body probably realized the insanity of the numbers it was asking for. And in 1997, the LPGA adopted the new 27-point system. That change came with a now discounted veterans category that allowed Judy Rankin, Donna Caponi, and Marlene Hagee into the LPGA Hall of Fame. And I'm guessing that must have put a smile on King's face. But in the modern era of women's golf, acquiring the required 27 points is still a long shot. So let's look at why that is, and how the LPGA can adjust its system to the demands of today. Among the active players on the LPGA Tour today, only 10 players have 7 or more victories to their name. On that list, Nelly Korda, Brooke Henderson, Minjee Lee, Lexi Thompson, Aria Jutanugarn, and Jin-Yoon Ko are still under 30. So they might have a tiny chance of amassing 27 points before time comes for them. And I say that because time on the LPGA Tour is a different concept from what it is in the men's game. Biology plays a huge role in both men's and women's golf, but its actions are more obvious on the female side. For example, men can decide to become dads early in their careers and still go out on the golf course to play golf weekly and challenge for titles. But women don't always have that luxury. It's not unheard of for a woman to return from childbirth and remain competitive. In fact, in 2009, Scotland's Catriona Matthew went on to win the British Open 10 weeks after giving birth to her second child. However, starting or maintaining a family while at the top of your sport is still a big ask for women. It was one of Annika Sorenstam's reasons for retiring in 2008, a year she still won multiple tournaments. But away from all that mansplaining, I think it's time for the LPGA Hall of Fame to be frank with itself. The Lydia Ko types appear once every decade, so the rules have to change to allow more of these great players to earn their place in the Hall of Fame. As for me, I think the point system is not a bad idea. It's transparent and players get to qualify on the merits of their game. But it needs a couple of tweaks to be consistent with the times. For starters, I feel the LPGA should increase the points for winning majors from 2 to 3. Yes, there are 5 of them every year, but there are also about 4 to 5 different major winners yearly. And the chances of most players winning multiple majors are becoming slimmer than a Slim Jim every season. Another thing I'd like to see is the reduction of the points in general. So instead of 27, the Hall of Fame could accept players with 20 points and above. I feel like this is a more realistic target for today's women golfers. And it's not an invitation to complacency at all. It might even increase the golfers' drives when they realize the Hall of Fame is not as out of reach as it used to be. And with their body clocks ticking, I'm sure the players would be able to make 20 points, which still won't be an easy feat. Lastly, I don't think not winning a major, a Vare Trophy, or a Player of the Year award should be grounds for disqualification. The measure of how great a player is should be based on how they performed over several tournaments. And if they do enough to earn those 20 points, no player should be denied entry for any other reason. Anyway, that's all I have for you about the harsh qualifications of the LPGA Hall of Fame. Let me know if you agree with my suggestions. And tell me what you think the Hall of Fame should change to fit its rules to the realities of the modern game. I'll see you in another